That's Riley Leonard, who averaged over 7 yards on scrambles over the last 2 seasons. Only last year's Heisman winner, Jaden Daniels, who Desmond referred to, topped those numbers. The defense that Elko inherits at A&M has been burned on scrambles the last 2 seasons, allowing nearly 9 yards per pop, with Daniels doing a lot of that damage. Here's head coach Marcus Freeman on what he has seen from his new starting quarterback.
He's not afraid to run, right? He wants to run. He wants the ball in his hand. So I think that's an added element to your offense. I don't want to see our quarterback running the ball every play, and that's not our plan. But to have the ability to have design quarterback runs or truly read defenders with a quarterback that can pull it is something that's going to help our offense have success.
Riley Leonard is gritty. He is tough. What do you expect to see from him in this offense?
First of all, just connecting the dots to this game is just nuts. You know, these two coaches faced each other last year. We were there at Duke for game day. Yep. Now different schools. Riley Leonard was Elko's quarterback last year. He's Marcus Freeman's quarterback this year. It's awesome. But regarding Leonard, you know, Des, you were on those Packers teams. You always heard about Brett Favre being too amped up before a game, right? And you got it Holmgren would call plays just to let him air it out a little bit.
Exactly.
I think the temperament of Riley Leonard is really important. So, again, the connecting of the dots, going against a familiar guy in Elko. How is he going to come out? Injured last year. We didn't get the true taste of him. But knowing what he's up against, the strength of Texas A&M is their defensive line, and how is he going to adjust? How many quarterback design runs are there going to be? How many times is he going to be able to get himself out of trouble with scrambling? That's what I'm expecting from him to be really good at. Decision-making, it's huge for him.
Yeah, I spoke to Coach Freeman. He said the reason they wanted to get him out of the portal is because they knew that he could play in big games. He said he's a fierce competitor, and they love what he brings to an offense. But it's not just about Riley Leonard. He has some weapons now, too. He has a receiver named Chris Mitchell. They got him out of FIU. Averaged 17 yards per catch. He can blow a lid off of a defense. And then Jeremiah Love. He's listed as a running back, but Jeremiah Love is like a Swiss Army knife. He can do so many different things because of his versatility. He's going to have to touch the ball tomorrow 15 to 18 times.
And on the other side of the ball, Pete, what are you expecting from Mike Elko's defense?
Well, I'm expecting a fun moment to start the game. Mike Elko obviously worked here as the defensive coordinator. He's never run out of the tunnel. He would go right up to the booth. So tomorrow night against Notre Dame, he runs out of the tunnel for the first time. What will we see, Jen? Well, we're going to see a really solid, sound defense. His first year at Duke, they inherited the worst defense in the country in total defense. They improved by 70 places. Texas A&M had a pretty good defense last year. But with that line Steve mentioned, I think they're going to be stout. I think that we're going to see a low-scoring game, field goals, special teams. These are two defensive coordinators. They're not going to call the game to throw the lid off.
So what's low-scoring, like 20 to 17? Somebody will get in the 20s,
I think 20 points wins the game.
20?
I really do.
Wow, okay.
Not like we saw from some of the teams last night that got blanked. We'll talk about that as the show goes on. You know, I was talking to folks at Notre Dame. We talked about Riley Leonard. One of the things he did to kind of ingratiate himself with his new team, we talk about the transfer portal and how you don't have a lot of time to get that rapport that you need. He made flashcards of every one of his teammates and studied it like you would study for the SAT or a test in high school. So that just goes to show the effort that he put in to try to be the leader of this squad. All right, history might be on Florida's side when it hosts Miami tomorrow at the Swamp. The Gators have won 34 consecutive home openers. That is the longest on-field streak in SEC history. But back-to-back losing seasons have generated questions about Billy Napier's future in Gainesville. So let's hear from Napier. He said, I'm not a fool. Part of leadership is you've got to have some self-awareness, and you have to make tough decisions. You have to make necessary changes. We've done that. I have a ton of confidence. It is all part of the story. Pete, what more can you add about Napier and his job security there?
Well, to Billy Napier's credit, Jen, he has contractual self-awareness. He signed a 7-year deal when he got the Florida job, more than $50 million guaranteed. If they were to have another bad season, Billy Napier would likely be fired. It's pretty clear. He would be owed more than $26 million if he's fired on December 1st. That would be the second biggest buyout in the history of college football. The biggest.
Yeah.
We're still paying for it right here. And that was 3 times as much. But $26 million to fire a coach is not something to sneeze at. There's an interim president at Florida. I don't think it's fait accompli for Billy Napier. And part of that was he knew what he had to rebuild, and they prepared for it contractually.
Let's take it to the field, Steve. What do you expect to see from Florida this week?
Well, first of all, I love love the way Napier's handled this offseason with everything going on, court cases, and all anyone wants to do is talk about the schedule. Yeah. In all this, chaos, what they did do last year is as they took their lumps, they had a ton of freshmen play.
Yep.
They had freshmen score 14 touchdowns. They had 7 true freshmen start games. That's the most in the country. So they're not this bad of a team, But again, everybody just keeps talking about the schedule. Cam Jackson, the D tackle up front, is an absolute stud. But again, the way he has not addressed all this stuff off the court, off the field, and focused on his team and getting ready for this spot, the swamp, opening up your season against an in-state rival. I love the way they've gone into this, and I expect a good game from them.
What about Miami, Des?
The Canes believe they won the portal sweepstakes. They got Damian Martinez, the running back out of Oregon State, and then they got Cam Ward, Washington State's quarterback. And Cam Ward, I tell you what, guys, he's a difference maker. I spoke to some coaches last week over there at Miami that said, Desmond, first and foremost, we wanted him because he's an alpha male. Not only does he make the offense better, he makes the defense, the whole team better. Secondly, his ability to escape. I mean, this guy has a thick lower body, excellent balance, and he's always keeping his head up and his eyes down the field when he's scrambling. Elite arm talent. He's the type of quarterback that they need in this offense.
One of the weapons for Miami will be featured tomorrow on College Game Day. We've got the story of Cam McCormick, who, if that name sounds familiar, it's because he's been around for a while, guys. He'll be kicking off his 9th season. North Dakota State at Colorado. This one, a lot of folks tuning into. See what those Buffaloes will be able to do this season. 3rd and goal, Colorado up 4. You probably heard the name, Travis Hunter, a lot.
It's an insane catch.
Cool.
Completely insane.
Handling the coverage.
How does he
catching the ball?
Strength more than
Fourth
anything.
touchdown, 31-26 the final. Desmond, your biggest takeaway from the Thursday action?
Well, the player we just saw, Travis Hunter, is a dude. I mean, the level of play from him at 2 skill positions, wide receiver and defensive back, is just phenomenal. And then the number of snaps. I mean, he has the stamina of a world-class, marathon runner to take all those snaps. So that last catch, though, that we saw, that's cool. That's all right. That's nice. But the last one for the touchdown, it's harder than any one-handed catch you'll ever see on any level. So his concentration, his ball skills, his confidence, he's just a dude, man.
Pete, what did you see Thursday night?
So I saw Cam Rising back, and I saw Utah's offense go from completely dysfunctional in the throw game to looking like Oregon Chip Kelly in 2009. He threw 15 passes, he completed 10, he had 5 touchdowns. He was out by the end of the second quarter.
Wow.
It was jarring to see the Utes move the ball like that. So look, Utah had the number 86 passing offense in the country last year. Really held them back. They played quarterback roulette. If Cam Rising can be Cam Rising again, I think Utah's the prohibitive favorite in the Big 12.
And I go to the SEC. We showed them earlier. Missouri. A lot of guys lost on defense. But talking to Eli Drinkowitz, his 2 words this year are air superiority.
Okay.
And you saw that last night. I love what they bring to the table. It's almost like they don't care about defense. He knows he's got studs on offense, and he's going to feed those guys.
And they lost that defensive coordinator, too, to LSU. That's a big loss for them.
I've got some air superiority happening on my backside here. I don't know about you guys. I got some air superiority happening on the backside here, combating these 90-degree temperatures here.
So the Georgia running back situation is going to be the most fascinating thing to watch as we go into the Clemson game on Saturday. They're expected to be without star back Trevor Etienne. Rod Robinson, his expected backup, is out with an injury. So this means we're going to see a lot of Branson Robinson and a lot of true freshman Nate Frazier. He's from Los Angeles. He's been the buzz of camp. Look for number 3 to give them some explosion tomorrow.
And speaking of those dogs, it is time for our Goodyear road test. The road to the college football playoff begins and ends at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Clemson taking on Georgia in the Aflac kickoff game tomorrow. That's at noon Eastern on ABC. Then we'll be right back there on January 20th. Oh, yeah, right back. It's going to go so fast for the CFP National Championship. Des, this is an ACC Goliath in Clemson, an SEC Goliath in Georgia. What will you be watching for in that matchup?
Well, look at Clemson's offense, right? Cade Klubnik, he was up and down a year ago. Now they went out and got him some wideouts. They brought in 2 5-star freshman wideouts. One name is Bryant Wesco. He's about 6'2", 170 pounds, can run like the wind. And then you have T.J. Moore, 6'3", 190. You put them on the field with Antonio Williams, you got something special. And they still got Phil Maffa, 6'1", 230-pound running back. So I want to see this offense now with all this new talent around Cade Klubnik.
That's what I look at, too, with Maffa and that identity they established when he was in the game. Last year, Klubnik didn't have the experience he got as the season went on.
Right.
And Shipley, they moved him around all over the place. They didn't have an identity. When Maffa was in the game, the offensive line knew he was getting the ball, and there was a mindset. The guy is a punishing runner. I expect him to get the ball a bunch of times, and we haven't even mentioned Georgia, but Clemson needs a jump start to this game. They have to start fast if they want to be in this game because we know what Georgia brings to the table with Carson Beck in that offense.
So I'm going to double down on what Desmond said about the receivers. I think that unit has been Clemson's weakest link as they've gone from elite to just very good.
Yep.
So I want to see that whole unit. Antonio Williams back from injury.
Yep.
Wesco coming in as a five-star. Do they have Mike Williams? Do they have these? They had freak shows at that position.
Yeah,
they had the best unit in the country, and they had mediocre ACC units.
Yeah.
They need that unit elevated. I think they have the best pieces they've had in the last few years.
Excited to see them against that Georgia secondary. A great test.
I think George is excited, too. That's some fresh meat out there on the perimeter.
And that's what I'm wondering, guys. How much of a chip on their shoulder does Georgia have after what happened last year with them being on the outside looking in?
I mean, just look at who their head coach is. He wakes up with it. So, yeah, I mean, Clemson's got to love being the underdog and playing that role. You know, they don't get to do it often, but Georgia's got plenty to prove. They lost out of the playoff, beat Florida State, didn't get any credit for it. They got to be jacked up for this one.
ESPN FPI has Georgia with an 82.4% chance to win that game, so probably going to go Kirby Smart's way.